Day 56 in Numeria. Today, I had to do 1,000 push-ups while people laughed at me.
Yep.
Hello, welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we explore fictional worlds and civilizations right from the comfort of our own table. I'm Ryan, and this past week in RPGs, Sam dropped some mad knowledge bombs on us.
Whoop, whoop.
She had 2 separate parties, and we both interacted, and she had been puppeteering us in the same campaign setting for months.
Yes, it was funny. We were joking that we'd mentioned those stories several times during episodes. And I'm like, if our friends who are listening, like, they're going to pick it up. No one ever did.
Yeah, made it work.
Yeah, so I'm Sam, and I got to do this really great, amazing thing that I was super excited about. So for some slight context, I had 2 different parties in the same geographical location, which is one we haven't visited yet. So I'm excited to do that episode. But then they end up needing to work together. I guess they could have chosen not to. But I was just really, really excited because Tyler knew because he lives in this house, but nobody else knew on either side. And so then both parties were in the same room and they were like, oh no, Ryan's here to murder us, which was not the case. But I did like that was the assumption that I'd invited Ryan over to
based on precedent,
murder them.
That does check out.
It does. It was funny. Ryan walked in and was like, wait, are we not playing tonight? We're like, no, sit down. Grab a chair. It's going to be great.
But it was lovely. All of my planning and plotting all came to fruition. I was very excited.
Good job, Sam.
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I'm Tyler, and this week, or I guess last week, I killed my first player character as a GM.
So proud of you.
It was exhilarating. No, it was kind of an epic way to go. They were fighting a black pudding, which is an ooze, and they learned the good lesson of don't have exactly one way to damage people, i.e. they only had slashing and piercing, which was what the ooze is immune to. And so they basically just like the rogue went down, then the champion brought him back up, then the champion went down and the rogue brought him back up, and then the rogue took a crit and just lost it.
Are black puddings the one that divide if they get hit by slashing too?
Yeah, so like they turned one big pudding into 4 by the time they by the end there.
Too many puddings.
Then you're in trouble.
Yeah. So it was great.
Good. Good job, Tyler. I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
More to come.
Yes. Man, he just went on a killing spree after that.
Gotta get one. Before we start off on our episode, just want to do a quick reminder. Our Patreon is live. You can check us out on the website. If you search for us, Tabletop Travel Guide podcasts on Patreon, will pop up.
And we'll also have a link in the show notes. Yeah.
And with that, Tyler, if you want to take it away.
Perfect. So, we are in the land of Numeria. So this is continuing our exploration of the Broken Lands, right? Broken Lands. So, Numeria is kind of basically south of Mendev. South of Mendev, kind of, if we're using that lake in Carthan, it's north, more kind of east-ish, northeast.
Yep.
So, what do you guys know about Numeria?
Well, considering I ran a single session of you guys in Numeria, and that was kind of wild. Mad Max?
Yeah.
That's what I know. Mad Max, spaceship, magic, keyboards.
Yes, so Numeria is kind of a wild place. Numeria started off as just kind of another place where Kellids roamed. Kind of similar to so it's kind of similar to Realm of the Mammoth Lords or whatever. You had several different Kellid tribes. They were exploring, all that kind of stuff. And, things were fine. Then, remember, in minus 5293 AR, Earthfall happens.
Sure.
Drives all the Kellids into caves.
Yes.
Underground.
Right.
Fast forward 200 years, the quest for the sky that the dwarves happen, push all the Kellids back out onto land.
Cool.
Oh, poor Kellids. Just all this
Up
displacement.
and down and up and down.
Up and down. So they're back up to the land, and they're just kind of doing their thing for the next 700 years. So, pretty standard Kellid stuff. So, I have broken this episode, I guess not really broken, but there are events that I call anchor points that affect Numeria, and other points that I call fun facts, which aren't really relevant but are really cool. So, the first big anchor point, and what turns Numeria from a normal path following maybe like Realm of the Mammoth Lords or something to what it is now, is in minus 4363 AR, a thing called the Rain of Stars.
The Rain of Stars.
It sounds very pretty.
Yes. So, from probably the Kellids' point of view, a huge, what feels like meteorite crashes into Numeria all over the land.
Which is probably a little bit of generational PTSD, because Earthfall...
Yeah. Yeah, so like, it would probably seem a lot like Earthfall is happening again.
Yikes.
What is actually happening is a starship from a distant galaxy breaks up in the atmosphere and scatters across Numeria.
Sure.
So, kind of, we've touched on this a little bit, and if you've ever played the game Starfinder, which is Pathfinder or Paizo's sci-fi version, you'll know that Golarion is not the only world. We talked a little bit about in the Keonan Elves as well, when they went to Soverian. It's not another plane of existence, it's actually another planet.
Physical place.
Physical planet in the universe. Likewise, this starship came from a different planet, crashed over Numeria, and then basically just, rained down futuristic space parts at a time when you had very tribalistic, nomadic people.
Brutal.
We're going to get into more of the kind of specifics about how that's affected the land, but there are three kind of main places that have a lot of stories and stuff coming out of Numeria. So you have Silvermount, which is the largest chunk of the spaceship. The spaceship was also called Divinity. That was that was the spaceship. It is the largest intact chunk in Numeria that landed. It is a jagged metal peak that rises over 1,500 feet at its highest point.
That's pretty big.
Basically a big silver mountain.
Yeah.
That seems like, I'm trying to imagine the scope of the spaceship. So that's like a space station.
Yeah. We're looking at Star Destroyer probably size spaceships. And, in the mountain, there's still countless intact cabins and chambers and weapons that are still being investigated to present day. You have also the Felldales, which is kind of a hazardous wasteland that was most bombarded by the falling space junk. If Silvermount was the big intact piece, Felldales was all the pieces.
Everything else.
Yeah. It's full of radiation and malfunctioning robots. Anything still living here has just become mutated into a parody of their natural form. And then you have Scrapwall, which is kind of a spiraling junkyard of cast-off tech stretching several miles. And at one point, it was the greatest source of sky metal.
Yes.
Other than Silvermount itself. We'll talk a little bit about
Love
that.
the sky metals.
So sky metals are basically metals from distant planets and stars, kind of like meteorite stuff.
Metals
and
from
ships.
the sky.
Metals from the sky, yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
It's a metal from the sky. I call it sky metal. So the most common one that people recognize is adamantine. That's a sky metal.
Oh, okay.
And then there's several others. Some are more radioactive than others. Byssium was one of them. So, yeah. For the next, 1,200 years, the Kellids are just kind of exploring tech. They don't know they don't know what these things are, but they're exploring them, just kind of going around doing their thing.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Giant space meteoroid fell from the sky.
Yeah, it's like
let's
this
see
is
what it does.
Yeah, this is so beyond our understanding of how things work, but let's explore. Let's, try to figure it out.
Oh, so and stuff in there was salvageable to a degrry by some people, right?
Yeah, there's like I said, Silvermount had plenty of intact cabins. There's a lot of usable technology that's survived.
Okay, you could stumble upon a microwave.
Yeah.
Hello.
Guys, I got it. Want to know how to power it. But yeah, so they don't really do anything with the tech because they don't really understand it, but they kind of explore it.
Sure, okay.
So in minus 3116 AR, a chieftain explored a little bit too far into a ruin looking for weaponry.
Uh-oh.
And somehow either triggered a trap, pressed a wrong button, did something. He triggered a massive explosion. Basically obliterated his tribe, irradiated the land. It was like he literally nuked.
Yikes.
Like set off a nuke.
Oops.
So all of the surrounding tribes saw the mushroom cloud.
Oh no.
And they kind of took this as a sign like, nope, this is not good. We are now against all of this type of technology.
That's a reasonable response.
Yeah. So they, something exploded. It's stuff we don't understand. Like, honestly, a lot of Numerians still have this taboo against technology.
Okay.
So basically what they will do now is they just kind of bury any tech that they see.
Bury
They
that
just,
microwave.
Yeah, bury it back under. Out of sight, out of mind. Bury it.
Okay.
So they kind of go back to their lives for several thousand years. There's not any big notable situations. They're like, anytime they find technology, they hide it, whatever. Obviously, there are certain parts that are now kind of ruined by radiation. So, people kind of move on and live their lives. The next kind of event, I guess, is the Army of Exploration. Taldor shows up.
Oh, Taldor.
We've come all the way around, so now Taldor is a thing again. Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Taldor shows up. So we kind of went from minus 3100 AR to 499 AR. So like I said, no notable events happen.
3,500 years.
3,500 years. They tried to go through Numeria, but due to their lack of supplies, they were kind of running out of supplies, and all of the Numerians being like, no, we do not like this. They didn't actually end up exploring Numeria, so they moved on.
Fair.
Dodged a bullet. I'm not going to get too much into kind of pre-technology Numeria beyond this, because honestly, I kind of find this part slightly less interesting. But another kind of big couple 100-year situation was in 1288 AR, moving like from 1288 to 1521. There's kind of a whole thing about the Numerians fighting against the giants. So there's a big giant population. There was, several notable battles. So the queen at the time, Queen Boliga Barsalm, she was clashing with the 30 tribes of hill giants that were led by Ergo Axebiter, which is a cool name.
Nice.
And, 3 years after 1288, the hill giants are defeated in a clash that also kills the queen. And then they had some more skirmishes, stuff for the next 100 years. Battles kept happening, whatever. Until finally they got their population levels down, which they built a citadel called Aramor.
Okay.
That
Aramor.
Was created to kind of prevent the giant population. So
lots of Kellids. No, lots of Kellids. Lots of giants up in this part. Because there's like the frost giants. There's these guys. Yeah.
So just Numerians, Kellids fighting giants. Also, that citadel is notable because it also turned out to be a pretty good defense against the world wound once demons started popping out. So kind of tie in there. But yeah, basically, up until tech happens, you have just normal tribe things. Normal Kellids doing Kellid things, fighting giants, etc.
Like you do.
So, skip ahead. 2009 AR. Army of Exploration number 5.
Oh boy.
The second bullet dodge by Numeria. Taldor headed near Numeria and decided, now let's go east. So then they skip past Numeria a second time. Because they assumed there was nothing that interesting going on in Numeria. Which, they would be wrong. So, this next thing... This is a fun fact. So not having to do with Numeria in general or the history, but a fun fact. In 3441 AR, there's this thing called the Battle of Fallheart. Okay. So 2 warriors brought their armies to fight for dominance on this field called Fallheart. And this field
is this in Numeria?
Yeah, it's in Numeria. It's basically this like field that's kind of has a like devoid of life and has kind of a humming feel. It's like kind of like that white noise hum. Like
don't go there. Yeah. Don't go fight there.
Yeah. So they're like
There's a giant microwave underground.
So.
Oh no! Is there? Well, okay. I don't know if that'd be cool or not.
They go to fight. So then 2 days after the battle was supposed to take place, a group of explorers from Brevoy, which we'll talk about next episode, came across the battlefield. Everyone was dead. No person had a single wound on them.
Gross.
So after a lot of research, they basically determined that for some reason, the area was inhospitable to life and just to avoid it. So they just put signs around the field and said, like,
do not enter.
Do not enter. You will die. The actual reason is that the ship, the Divinity ship that crashed, there was a whole wing of it that was dedicated to experiments into constructing a nuclear abyssium reactor.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Uh-oh.
And so that basically, what is under that field is basically the experimental abyssium reactor.
Uh-oh.
That, for whatever reason, if there's just like a few people, like the explorers, nothing happens. It emits low levels of radiation at all times, so it's not great. But for whatever reason, when there's a critical mass of life that gathers above it, it rises and pulses the area with severe radiation that just like irradiates and kills anything on there.
Incredible.
Yeah.
So it is a giant microwave.
It is a giant. It microwaves the crap out of anybody when you have a big enough group. So yeah, so the two fighters came up and straight up died.
Man, so do you think like they knew like, hey, we chose this location because it's weird and kind of creepy and we're going to fight here? Or was it like we chose it because strangely nothing grows here, so there's no obstructions for when we hit each other with swords?
I think it was maybe a little bit of both. It was I was reading about it and it was basically like because it had kind of a mystical weirdness about it, like the odd silence, the kind of subtle hum. It was like there's something magical about this place. If we fight and
whoever wins will
gain power or something, like just kind of like maybe
it's
a little bit of
cinematic of them.
Okay.
To plan that.
But yeah, instead get pulsed by radiation and dies.
Ooh.
Yeah. So interesting fun fact. Interesting fact. So anyway, so the next kind of big event anchor point of Numeria is a wizard named Karamos. So in 3596, this is almost kind of a foreshadowing of what might, like the kind of tiny seeds of what might become the Technic League, which we'll talk about in a minute. But he's kind of a wizard who, unlike the Taboo, was like, you know what, technology is actually a good thing and we should research it and we should try to understand it.
Very wizard of him.
Yeah. So he entered Silvermount, remember the mountain, which is the ship, under a cloak of secrecy in 3606, and he was in there for 30 years.
Oh,
jeez.
When he came out, he was basically a cyborg.
Oh.
Both mentally and physically, was infused with cybernetic enhancements. Yeah, so this guy comes out as a robot.
So he's like robot Gandalf.
Man, so did he like figure all that out in there, or did he like accidentally just like stumble into someone's like closet and like, I'll try on this hat today?
I'm sure there's probably stuff that you could find in that ship that's like, this is the cybernetic enhancement wing, and like,
yeah, that seems, yeah,
with enough like playing around with it, you could probably get something to work.
Yeah.
So then he decided to head to the Isle of Kortos, right from Numeria.
Sure.
Which the Isle of Kortos is where Absalom is at, and constructed a mighty siege castle to overrun Absalom with technology.
Wait, what?
Oh.
Look.
He built
a siege city, siege castle to overrun Absalom for reasons.
This is a movie, isn't it?
Like Howl's Moving Castle or something?
No. Well, yes, also Howl's Moving Castle. Isn't there a mortal engines where like cities are...
Oh, yeah. I don't think I ever watched it. But
I didn't either, but I saw the commercial for it.
Yeah. So either way, he failed and then disappeared.
Oh, so he didn't die?
No, he just gone. He might be around. Who knows?
I hope that castle is just hanging out somewhere, like with a broken leg. Like, we were gonna siege. It's broken.
So
but
it's still around. I think I can't remember what it was called. It was like the Red Redoubt or something.
Huh.
And it's just kind of hanging out, empty.
Okay.
Yeah. So this isn't really a big turning point, but I wanted to talk a little bit about a title that was kind of created. We talked about how all the tribes are kind of fighting, all the Kellid tribes fight for supremacy. Mm-hmm. So in 4031, the title of Black Sovereign was created. And it's basically given to a moniker given to the ruler of Numeria's tribes.
Okay.
So basically the strongest Kellid at any given time. There was a person named Amalokla. Amalokla was the first black sovereign, but there's little more known about them than that. It's not like a true monarchy, since it's kind of a title that just happens, to be who unites the most tribes at any given time.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing is that there's the tradition of once a black sovereign dies, they are stripped naked and thrown into a pit called the Bone Hall, which just holds the jumbled remains of all previous black sovereigns.
Oh.
Yep. Just chucks their naked body into
Seems weird.
a pit.
Hey, thanks for your years of service, Chuck.
Yep.
Feels very the king is dead, long live the king.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That brings us to 4308, Gojon the Sharp, who is one of the original Pathfinders.
Oh.
And remember, Pathfinders in universe are part of the Pathfinder Society, and they basically are collectors of history. Explorers. They go
Indiana
on missions.
Jones.
They're kind of like Indiana Jones. And so they have their like Pathfinder Chronicles, which is their kind of magazines or the books of like, here's all the things that are happening around the world. The Sears Travel Guide. No, so Gojon traveled to Numeria to kind of make a name for himself, because not a lot was written about Numeria at the time. But he got enslaved by the Black Sovereign of the era, Ontar.
Whoops.
Yeah. And for 10 years, he went through grueling tests to finally have access to explore Silvermount and the technological ruins.
Oh.
I feel like he might have had a lot to write about then in the years of grueling tests, so he could still send info back. Like,
Yeah, that's good. That's good material.
Day 56 in Numeria. Today, I had to do 1,000 push-ups while people laughed at me.
Yep. So he finally got access to Silvermount and write about the Chronicles, or write about them, and then that made it into the Pathfinder Chronicles. But then he returned a year after and disappeared without a trace in 4320.
All these people just disappeared without a trace.
Yeah.
So he returned to Numeria.
He returned to Numeria. So he went back to the Pathfinder Society, released the book, went back to Numeria, disappeared.
Okay, so came back, got his book deal.
Yeah.
And then went back to, okay.
So the kind of sad outcome to this is because they showed up in the Pathfinder Chronicles, and because there are a bunch of sky metals and resources and stuff, people just flocked to Numeria to just abscond with all of the resources.
So we're gold rushing right now?
Yeah, so within about 100 some odd years, 150 years, Scrapwall, which I mentioned was like the most sky metal rich area, was completely depleted.
That's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Oof.
So not great. It's one of those. When I was reading that, I'm like, seems a little like not great on the Pathfinder Society to be like, hey, look at this whole thing full of resources. What's gonna happen? It's fine.
So basically, all of these people read this journal and were like, oh, cool, I'm going to go there, do some mining, and then get a bunch of stuff to sell or make cool stuff with.
Things. So they just kind of stole it for resources.
Rude.
Brutal.
Very rude. The next kind of anchor point in 4501, so we're still like a couple hundred years back, you have Sidra Amiris, who was a survivor of the Divinity ship crash.
Oh.
Wait, what?
So she was a survivor of Reign of Stars, and she was in a life pod in the ship for several thousand years. So she gets awoken in 4501. The crash happened in minus 4363, so 8,000 years she was
in stasis.
In a pod.
Is she human?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's human. And after she was awoken, she spent some time acclimating, trying to figure out what the heck has happened. So she spent some time acclimating, and she hid her true nature from most people to, coming from the pod.
I mean, yeah, if you like crash landed in the Middle Ages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she spent some time quietly recruiting some spellcasters and people who are kind of less afraid of new technology, because her main mission now was basically, I need to get home or send out a distress signal. or figure out what the heck's happening because it's been 8,000 years.
Oof.
This is where she started a group called the Technic League. Not Technic League.
Not
Yeah.
technically.
Not
The
technically.
Technic League.
The Technic League, which started out as kind of a secret society, of course. And she was hoping that by building up this league and building up this society, they could eventually make it to the ship's core so she can learn how to get home.
Okay.
Home being a planet called Androtha. Which, like I said, maybe we'll get to eventually if we start talking about Starfinder.
Still
but
a long ways away.
Long ways away. But yeah, after a while, she kind of built up the spellcaster's knowledge of technology, kind of helped them understand how all this stuff worked. They eventually gathered their supplies and headed to Silvermount. Unfortunately for Sidra, her second in command, a wizard named Mulrak Zir, assassinated her
Oh, shit.
and took her place as captain.
Really?
Yeah,
Really, bro?
right?
Girl was
Really?
in stasis for 8,000 years. She gets out. She forms this cool society, and then she just gets shanked by some wizard.
Yep,
Ugh.
Yeah.
Awful.
right?
Wait, but she probably, I mean, she's from the ship. Like, if you want one person to not die.
Yeah, so that set back the Technic League a lot because they killed the one person who knows how the ship worked.
Sure, of course.
So they set them back several years. They ended up figuring out how to work some of the technology. There's still stuff they're
my
researching,
gosh.
but yeah, by killing the person who was from the ship.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. After this, I believe this is when they took over a place called Starfall, which is at the at the kind of base of Silvermount.
Okay.
So Starfall is the capital of Numeria.
Okay.
And it was originally founded as kind of a place for discussion and a safe like outpost for people exploring Silvermount.
Like your base camp when you're
Yeah,
climbing a mountain.
I couldn't find exactly when it was settled. My assumption is sometime after the Pathfinder Chronicles was released.
If like a bunch of people
If
are
a
in
bunch
there.
of people came
Yeah,
there,
that seems
that's my
reasonable.
guess. I couldn't find a year, but it was a place of collaboration and technical findings and like all kinds of good stuff. And then the Technic League took over and basically shut it all down.
Great.
Ooh.
So the
Great.
Technic League went from a kind of secret society of like building up technology to a power hungry society of we need to hoard all the technology for ourselves because that technology equals power.
Great.
Yes.
Oh, boy.
Yep. So not great. Okay. So we're going to take a quick detour to another fun fact story because I find this also very interesting. I was telling Sam when I was researching this, I'm like, there are just so many cool, fun stories that I just need to talk about
You gotta
that
tell
have
'em.
no relevance. In 4650 AR, I might cut this, we'll see. Anyway, might delete later, feeling cute. 4650 AR, a town called Laden Bay, which was a town in Numeria created by Multhune exiles.
That's quite a hike. Okay.
Yeah, so they were exiled from Multhune, kind of built up a town called Laden Bay.
Sure.
A girl named Tinley Tillmore, she inadvertently discovered that her parents had been captured by a body thief and replaced by pod spawns.
This is her superhero origin story.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
So this is like pod spawns are basically like what's the movie like Body Snatchers,
Like-
Invasion of the Body Snatchers,
Yeah,
where you
like
basically
Flash
just like
clones kind of.
you basically like replace somebody,
boy.
Yeah.
or like if you've watched World's End,
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of these people started showing up. So then she found this out and then talked to a local ranger and basically like had to convince him, hey, my parents are not my parents. So she eventually convinced him. He discovered that there was a conspiracy of hunters and woodcutters that lured fellow community members into the nearby woods, and then they were consumed by the body thief and replaced by Spawn.
No.
Oh, Tinley's parents.
Yeah, so in addition to the parents, like, turns out a lot of people were actually pod spawn in town, because this has been going on for a little while. So he rallied the militia, but lost his life attempting to end the body thief, but the body thief disappeared after that.
Oh.
So people are not entirely sure whether the efforts to kill a person are successful, but the body thief has not been around
Sure.
since then.
So there's like no activity.
Has not been spotted.
Okay.
However,
Oh.
there are rumors and stories that flowers in the town, when visitors aren't looking, the flowers will turn towards the visitors.
Oh,
So who can say? A little bit of mystery.
what a creepy little town.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah. So that is the little side step of the Laden Bay pod spawn duplicates.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So back to Numeria anchor points. Brings us to Kavath Kul, who's super cool. KUL. So 4688 AR. He is a Kellid who unites several of the Kellid tribes under his banner and becomes the most recent and current Black Sovereign.
Okay.
So he shows up to Starfall with several thousand warriors and tells the Technic League, you need to surrender
Oh.
and give us
The city.
the city.
Okay.
And they're like, cool, you're good. You can take it.
Oh.
Yeah. So the High Council is just like, yep, it's all you. And everyone's like, cool, great. But turns out that the Technic League then basically took shadow control by getting Kavath Kul addicted to ship runoff. Like,
Oh.
Oh.
like,
Yeah.
like coolant leakage, whatever, which apparently is a drug in Pathfinder.
Oh.
Numeria, they call it Numerian fuel or Numerian, like, yeah, it's basically kind of a actual addictive drug
Oh, man.
that they kind of get him addicted to it and then kind of take over. So they kind of like turn him into an insane person.
Huh.
Yeah. He is technically the Black Sovereign, ruler of Starfall, head of Numeria, and is kind of a puppet lord run by the Technic League.
Okay. Great. Good job, Kavath Kul.
Yeah. At that point, he stops conquering. All of his people kind of settle down and like build permanent homes because they're like, well, I guess we're not conquering anymore. Cool. So we're living in Starfall. And then kind of warlords around Numeria kind of step up from there. Technically, everybody follows the Black Sovereign, but like he doesn't go out to police anything. It's like
Sure.
to do sovereignty things.
Yeah, basically outside of even the Technic League doesn't really do much outside of its own tiny area.
Okay.
Man, so what is the Technic League's goal now? Because obviously for the lady that they murdered, she was like trying to ET phone home.
So yeah, it basically kind of became a weird cyclical pursuit of power. Like it went from we need to use a technology and learn how to use it for the good, and it just became like this is power. We can be powerful. We need to unlock the secrets to gain more power.
Okay.
And since then, there were like just tons of backstabbings. Like the Technic League is very chaotic.
There's a closet full of microwaves somewhere. They're hoarding.
Somebody's hoarding all the microwaves. So interestingly enough, one of the big things Kavath Kul does is, even while he's in his kind of addicted rage state, he's just very erratic. And
Yeah, sure.
so he in 4704 he burns down the Pathfinder Lodge and bans Pathfinders from being able to be in Numeria.
Oh.
Which on one hand,
Yeah.
I'm like, I mean,
Yeah.
his whole thing is like, you need to stop stealing our artifacts.
Yeah.
This
they're
is
kind
our
of-
artifacts.
Kind of foreign invaders in a way, yeah.
Yeah, which it was just interesting because I'm like, I think obviously you can play in the Pathfinder Society scenarios.
Yeah.
You can like be Pathfinder, like they're an organization that helps a lot. But I'm like, there are some stories about them, and I'm like, you are basically like British Empire stealing.
Well, because it would be different if it was like the Pathfinders are here strictly for knowledge, right? So like we want to come explore and then be able to talk about what we found, but then whatever we found goes to the local government. Like that would be a different story. Yeah. It's different when it's, we came to check out your stuff and also take it with us without asking if that's chill.
Come join the Dutch East India Company.
Yeah. I'm fairly sure that like now and in like second edition, I think they kind of elevated it to where they'll kind of work with local communities to like help understand special artifacts and like
Sure.
I think it's a better situation now. But yeah,
because like if you were the tiny town with pod people and everyone was level 1 or lower, you might need a Pathfinder who's a level 5 person with some knowledge that could come in and help tell you how to get rid of the pod persons.
Yeah. And so remember 4704, that's when that happened. That's 20 years ago. And 4711, the next thing kind of happened is Technic League gets a powerful new leader named Osmond Zidal.
Osmond
Zidal. And he basically kind of rebuilt and reformed it and kind of took control and made them even more efficient and powerful, or made them more powerful and formidable as an organization.
Yay.
Yeah, right? He spent a lot of time ramping up the lengths the League would go to keep their secrets. So, like, basically more secret, more powerful, more nefarious.
Great.
So this brings us up to the events of the first edition Adventure Path, Iron Gods.
Okay.
So I'm not going to go into detail about this one, but there are a few things that came out of that Adventure Path that kind of give us the lay of the land of where we're at.
Yeah.
The few big ramifications are Osmond Zidal dies.
Great.
So shows up, dies, a couple years later. The Technic League falls into squabbling and is basically disbanded.
Okay. That seems good.
Yeah. And a good AI named Cassandra Lee ascends to godhood as part of the campaign.
Oh.
Yeah. So her, like, that whole situation is kind of a big part of the campaign, and we'll probably talk about it if we do like an adventure guide on.
Well, I'm immediately interested based on that comment alone.
Yeah, it's like we don't really need, like I said, we don't need to get into it for this episode. We will probably do an Iron Gods adventure guide because it is a cool story. But anyway, she was an android, kind of like became an AI when her like body was destroyed, ascended to godhood via stuff. Fun fact, her favorite weapon is the poly tool, which is basically a Swiss Army knife.
Of course.
Yeah.
Love it.
So in addition, Kavath Cool is coming back to his senses now that technically it's not keeping him addicted.
They cut off his coolant.
Yeah, they cut me off. So he's coming back to his senses, and people are kind of wondering what he's going to do with this now. They're wondering whether he's going to resume his campaign of conquest, or whether there might be a civil war, because in the meantime, while he's been doing his own thing, all the Kellid tribes warlords have been like fighting over the rest of the territory. So a lot of warlords have sprung up, and since the Technic League has been disbanded, the former advisors are now advising these warlords, and so now you have like a bunch of mini like Black Sovereign Technic League advisor shadow hands. So now it's kind of like a huge arms race to see who can kind of become the next Numeria leader or whatever.
Seeking employment.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we are from the history. As you can probably tell from some of the stories, the life there is, parts of it are pretty nomadic still. Parts of it are very dangerous. A lot of it is very dangerous because, at any point you can be exposed to a lot of ship radiation.
Sure.
Like the Feldhales, which, is whatever. Just getting radiated and mutated and all that stuff.
The microwave.
Yeah. So, yeah, it kind of like a lot of our other places we've talked about, they're kind of at a fork in the road. We're not sure where it's gonna end and where they're going from here. But things are looking kind of up, I'd say. I feel like you're on the up, maybe. Technic League's down, which is good.
Good.
Kavath Cool is up, which is question mark?
Well, he's not
neutral.
drugged up.
That's not drugged up. Yeah. So there you go. That's Numeria in a nutshell.
Well, thank you, Tyler.
Yeah.
I'm interested to see. I definitely want to hear more about the Iron Gods adventure path.
Yeah, I think we'll probably do an adventure guide on that one.
Okay, cool. Well, thank you again, and I think we'll take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, and when we come back, Sam will have a campaign for us.
Woo!
Introducing the Hot Sikatite Oven by Endrophin Industries, your ultimate ticket to a quicker, healthier dinner. Bid farewell to preheating and welcome a healthier cooking appliance that is hot the moment you're ready to start cooking. The Hot Sikatite Oven is more than just a microwave. It's a step towards a future where cooking is as fast as light-speed spaceships. Say goodbye to waiting and hello to hot and ready cooking. Make the smart choice today with the hot Sickatide oven.
Welcome back. So, Sam, I believe you have a campaign prepped for us, and I have a character ready, so...
I do have a campaign. We'll see how this goes for your character.
We'll see.
Sometimes they line up, sometimes they don't. All right, so our campaign is going to be centered around Cole Inkit, who is the consort of Kavath Cole.
Cole Inkit?
Yes, so I'm assuming
Inkit.
that the Cole part is like the title part, and so then she gets the title at the front end of her name as the consort.
Yeah.
That was my
That
thought.
seems right. Yeah.
So in some of the literature that I found, she's also second in command as consort. So it's less of this is my lady on the side, and more this is
actually functioning.
Right. This is a relationship. However, this person also has
it's
power and influence.
It's kind of as part of the Black Sovereign title situation. Yeah, you have your usually you have a consort, and they are second in command of
they're your vice president.
Numeria.
Yeah. So for this campaign, the party is going to be the personal force of Cole Inkit. So it's going to be more of I'm going to say maybe more of a mid to high level campaign.
Okay.
I believe that Kavath Cole is spec'd out at a level 15.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming that she's probably also spec'd out in a similar fashion.
Mm-hmm.
So we're probably going to start maybe level 12.
Yeah.
So we'll start a little farther up on the scale just for it to make sense for you to actually be her force.
Okay.
So her current motivations are to eternally rule Numeria alongside Kavath Cole, because one of the things that Tyler didn't get into, but one of the results of the drug addiction to the spaceship juice is that he's not aging anymore.
Yeah.
So
I didn't get to that, but Kavath Cole is currently effectively immortal.
As his consort, she's well, cool. Now I have to figure out how I then also get to live forever, but I don't want to drink the spaceship juice. So she's got multiple routes to achieve this.
Okay.
There are the life elixirs.
Orchid elixir.
There's potentially some magical things
There's lichdom.
wishing. She is also a devotee of Cassandra Lee.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also the thought of can my soul get stuck into a construct to then be able to live forever? So she's got some different routes here. So the initial party focus is you are there to protect her and keep her alive, because if she dies, that whole thing goes to shit. And then also do some of these tasks to help try to figure out what things can we get a hold of to keep her alive, or what, who do we need to make contact with? What do we need to steal? What research do we need to have? All the while we're on this backdrop of arms race in Numeria, and then different warring faction powers. At this time currently, Cole Inkit is good with Kavath Cole. They seem to be on. She wasn't super into him when he was having his drugged out moments, which fair.
So this is post Iron Gods.
Yes, this is post. So they seem to be chill right now, but I don't know. Maybe she has some different ambitions as the campaign progresses. So it'll be a little bit force protection, but then also you might get sent on different errands and tasks to help her further her goals. And then I would assume that she's offering some pretty substantial stuff to this small force. If she's successful living forever, then you will get X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
Or
if I'm immortal, I want an immortal bodyguard.
Yes. So there might be some benefits. So your motivation to stay in this job could, just be, hey, she gives a good paycheck, or I'm hoping for something longer term.
Nice.
Okay.
I like this.
This works. I think this works.
I feel like that could almost just be the next adventure path for Numeria.
Honestly, yeah, that would probably work pretty well.
You're welcome, Pathfinder.
Paizo, hit us up. You got great ideas.
Okay, so this I think works. So I made a character called, his name is Arborg. He's a randomly generated hobgoblin.
Ooh.
So kind of going back to before, hobgoblins are like very like militaristic and like they're civilized, but they're kind of in a weird middle ground.
Mhm.
They're not like tribalistic like the goblins, but they're kind of in the middle. So I spec'd him out as a person who he and his clan were exploring some kind of Numerian artifact. Something bad happens and his clan is wiped out except for him.
No.
Oh, buddy.
Poor Arbog.
But he somehow survives and he finds probably a similar chamber to like the one that wizard guy before, something that's able to artificially keep him alive for a time.
Mm.
And when he pops out, he has some technological improvements to his body of some kind.
Ooh.
And the kind of weird part about this was it made him a cleric. And so I was like, how do I make this cleric work? And what I landed on was he became a cleric of Nethys.
Oh.
So he somehow comes into contact with the Technic League and is convinced about like the importance of knowledge and power. But because he's a hobgoblin, he's more on the strong arm side of power. So he becomes a war priest of Nethys, beating down people with knowledge.
Very cool.
His quarterstaff of knowledge.
Oh, beating down people. I thought you meant beating down people who have knowledge, and I'm like, that seems weird.
I mean, probably that too,
Beating
to
down
be
people.
honest.
He's hitting people upside the head with a book.
That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, like, so the one, what's it called? So Nethys' main edict is to seek out magical power and use it. So I think he puts heavy emphasis on
and use it.
So like there's a bunch of scholars who are like all in robes dressed like, oh, well, we have all these books. And then this guy shows up with a quarterstaff and is like, yeah, and if you don't listen, I will beat you up.
I like it.
Nice.
Yeah, so his life expectancy for hobgoblins is only 60 years. So I wanted him to be like way older than that and be like a ramshackle beast of like barely keeping, like has to crank his heart every morning and like reattach his arm in the evening. And
nice.
Yeah. So I think he fits pretty well. I think he would jump into this.
Well, he'd be a good pull with like the knowledge base. Like,
Yeah.
oh, you're someone who is a researcher, but also capable of doing some
Well, I think
smackdowns.
if he, had some technology knowledge at some point, that'd be pretty valuable.
Yeah, like I said, I didn't think too hard about like where he was from, what catastrophe his clan encountered, but I think he definitely brings something to the table there and is willing to put action to any kind of commands that he's given.
I like it.
Nice.
Oh, I'm excited now.
Ooh. Arbog the Hobgob.
We're going to go beat up some people and steal their knowledge.
Whoop, whoop.
And
great campaign.
become immortal. I like it.
And become immortal.
I know alignments aren't a thing, but like there's definitely probably going to be some acts that are not exactly good in this campaign.
Yeah,
We're going to go beat some people up.
Yeah, and like I guess like Calling Kit is a devotee of Cassandra Lee, who is a good deity, but I don't know that necessarily. I think she's probably fairly neutral, or at least my conceptualization of her is that she's a neutral person. So I think that she's gonna condone like kind of we need to do what we need to do to get the job done because this is my goal.
Okay.
So
nice.
Okay. Well, Colin Kid just needs to turn the other cheek, not pay attention to what's happening, and then we're going to come back with an orchid elixir or some other thing, and she just doesn't need to worry about where we got.
Great.
Yeah.
Look that way for a while. We'll be back. Cool. Okay. So I think last thing we need to do is score Numeria.
Scoring Numeria.
And since it's a new year, we're scoring it on a scale of 10.
1
Woo.
to 10. I guess 0 to 10.
0 to 10. What should we do?
0 to 10 sky medals? 0 to 10.
0 to 10 microwaves.
Out of context, that's just going to be completely confusing.
That's
I love it.
I like it though. It's funny.
0 to 10 microwaves. Where do you guys put it? Put Numeria.
4? 5?
I
don't want to go here.
Yeah,
I was going 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think a solid 3.
3's probably fine with me. This does not sound like a place I want to go visit.
It's just the unlike other slightly dangerous places, like I don't think there is any sort of tourism industry here.
Yeah,
like,
they kind of burned down the Pathfinder Lodge.
We didn't talk about it. There's a town that people will go to for like smithies because there's basically a furnace, a pillar of fire that goes. So like there's a couple things to see, but I feel like not a lot. There's a lot of danger.
I mean, I guess it would be cool if you wanted to like see some technology things.
If you were a wizard or like an inventor who was really hyper focused on what they're doing, but as a regular person, I'm good.
Especially like you have places which have just rampaging robots that are like malfunctioning. I forgot about the
rampaging robots.
Yeah, like there's just a lot of ways to die here without like any warning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty solidly a 3.
3 out of 10 microwaves.
3 out of 10. Okay, wait, hold on.
Don't get nuked.
Should we? Okay, if we don't want to go here at all, is 3 out of 10 too high?
So I feel like it's not. For me, it's not lower because there's like a functioning society.
That's true,
and it's not like complete anarchy.
Yeah, and like there are some cool, interesting technological wonders there.
And it's not like how Galt was so poorly rated. Like it's not actively in revolt with murder mobs in the streets. Like it's bad, but not
cool. So
yeah, and potentially maybe it could be going into an upswing. We don't.
Who knows?
We don't know.
Or it could be going into a downswing.
It could go either way. So that rating could
like
go higher or lower.
That's the secret of this campaign: is we start the Civil War.
Oh,
nice.
3 out of 10 microwaves.
3 out of 10 microwaves.
I
love it.
Well, thank you all for coming along with us. Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Sam.
One more thing before we go. We mentioned it in the Tabletop Finds episode, but go to our website. There is going to be a listener survey right on the front page. So we just kind of want to hear a little bit about who our listeners are and stuff and things you might be looking forward to in 2024. So go check that out.
Things that you might be looking forward to in 2024, relation to us.
Not
just like...
I mean, I guess if you...
or just put your goals in there.
Right.
I mean, that's fine.
I would like $1 million this year. Yeah. Okay.
So go check it out. There will be a link on our homepage, tabletoptravelguide.com. Sweet.
Yeah, do that too. So like we said at the top of the show, we have a Patreon, Tabletop Travel Guide Podcast. You can find us email tabletoptravelguidepodcast@gmail.com. Our website, tabletoptravelguide.com. Have we put anything on the Instagram?
We've had a couple of pictures.
Okay, so see,
I think we put a picture of our dog invading our podcast taping. So
see, we put things occasionally on the Instagram.
Ryan's like, as a person who's not on social media, have we done the social medias?
Look, I do the Reddits.
That's fair.
I don't need to do. I don't do all this. Okay. But come find us, come reach out, come take the survey, and until next time, safe travels.